This morning, a lot has been discussed about the marketplace or the demand side, including policies, including charging infrastructure, and we share similar thoughts and actions as the previous speakers here. So I would like to focus my very short presentation on the industry side. If we want to use EVs, how about we also added value? How about we made them here as well? What would that mean? Kira Motors Corporation is a state enterprise in Uganda whose short-term goal is, or let me say short to medium-term goal, is to establish and operationalize the Kira vehicle plant in Uganda by July 2022. Our focus is around 3 primary factors of production plus policy. And this is people, plant, as well as the product. We are interested in seeing a people within the region who know how to use electric vehicles. For those of you who have had an opportunity of driving an electric vehicle, especially the bigger ones, you will observe that traditional ICE-based vehicles in the mass volume and the heavy duty are usually manual transmissions. But for electric vehicles, the manual transmission for such technology is not very common, because in many cases, electric vehicles actually have 1 gear. And for those of you who understand how motors operate, you perhaps understand why it may not be very necessary to have so many gear ratios within an EV. That means that the driver has to understand how to operate this vehicle a bit differently from the way you operate a traditional vehicle. We also need to be able to empower the decision makers with the right knowledge to be able to make the right policy decisions in time for this evolution to take place. And this is particularly critical because one of the things we have observed in the region is that when we do not have the right critical mass of people understanding what decisions should be taken, so we end up not having decisions being taken because people fear to venture into the unknown. And as we fear to venture into the unknown for Uganda, we are already generating in excess of 1,200 megawatts of hydro. And we consume only 600 megawatts of hydro at peak. However, most of our power plant were developed using project finance, meaning that we have to pay back based on forecasted cash flows. And we are paying back this money on the backdrop of importing 1.3 billion US dollars of fossil fuels every year for the last about 10 years. So on one side, 1.3 billion is going out to import fuel. More than 80% of that goes into cars. And we are generating hydro, renewable, and we are not using half of that. And we are paying back loans. So how do we empower people to make the right decisions? Because for Uganda, on that premise, we are ready to electrify because we already have the energy. And the technology for the vehicles is there. If you look at the mathematics, I may not have it here today, but it's almost obvious that we can actually afford the vehicles if we work out the difference between the importation of fuels and also the money we are paying back in terms of loans. The plant becomes a very important aspect because beyond addressing issues of air quality, we are thinking a little bit far in terms of as our population continues to grow. Uganda has the youngest population in the world today. More than 70% of our population is below the age of 30. The average age in Uganda, the median age in Uganda is about 14 years of age as of 2018. So what are we talking about? We are actually at the knife edge of either an opportunity or a crisis, depending on what we do. If we create employment opportunity for the youth, we are at a knife edge of an opportunity. If we do nothing about that, we are at the knife edge of a crisis, as these people with all the energy will continue looking for what to do, and most of what they do may end up being evil. So the issue of looking at the platform of the automotive industry as a footstool for us to launch industrialization towards addressing issues of employment and increasing local content participation, it is almost common knowledge that Africa continues to be quite endowed in a wide range of natural resources, including human beings, if we could take them as natural resources. In Uganda, we have over 500 million metric tons of high ferrous iron ore. And over the years, we have been getting that iron ore, putting it on a train or on a truck, bringing it here in Kenya, Mombasa port, and sending it somewhere. And then we import a lot of iron and steel products in order for us to fund, or rather to facilitate our construction industry, amongst others. So how do we convert that into a platform which not only addresses the other applications there, but also can be part of what fuels industrialization based on the automotive industry? But we also need to think about the product carefully. If the world is moving, I think there is going to come a time when it's going to be very difficult to import an internal combustion engine because no one is making it. So if we depend on importing it, we won't get it from anywhere, even in the used form. So the question, especially on vehicles like buses, I think there have been so many authors out there who have pointed out that the first internal combustion engine to go away is going to be the bus. And we've seen slides over here previously which have been showing that the bus continues to pick the drive for electrification. So we're thinking that how can we start in that area? And that's how we started working on the concept of the Kayola bus and leveraging the availability of technology outside the region through technology transfer. We think that we can go a long way in delivering this to the market in order for us to address the needs at home and perhaps share this also with the region. So we have started on the construction of our factory in a city known as Jinja, which is along the Lake Victoria and at the heart of the northern corridor in terms of getting into Uganda. So you can easily get to Jinja if you're coming outside Uganda, but you can also easily get from Jinja into the rest of the region if you're moving deeper to Juba, to Congo, and so on. So it's the right place for us to be. But also, Jinja is a place where historically we had several power plants, the hydro plants, like the one which was launched by the Queen Victoria in 1954, the Owen Falls Dam, and others. So we think that we should be able to have access to reliable power supply, which is a critical aspect of manufacturing. As we develop these facilities, we are careful to understand what it will mean to go past the assembly plant, because assembly alone has been documented to contribute only up to 15% of the opportunities there are in the industry. The 85% is in the supply chain. So the question continues being asked, and we are having thoughts and actions on how we can also progressively leverage the endowment not only of natural resources, but also the potential and the investment climate that is ever increasing and improving in the region, to see how we can develop a critical mass of manufacturers of auto parts. Just like in Kenya, where Hyundai batteries have been assembled here for a long while, in Uganda we have had Uganda Batteries Limited manufacturing the auxiliary batteries since 1954 profitably. And we are asking ourselves, since we have a lot of cobalt in Uganda, and most of the cobalt in the world is in the DRC, how about that conversation around thinking, leapfrogging interventions towards electric vehicle lithium-ion batteries manufacturing? Because we also know that interventions of such a nature will not only add value to the automotive industry, but lithium-ion batteries are used in so many different other applications for the telecos and also backup sources in the domestic regime. We have worked on the Kayola EVS, which is a flare electric bus. It's a battery electric vehicle or zero electric vehicle, zero emission electric vehicle. This bus is a 12-meter bus with a range of 300 kilometers on a single charge, and we are using a supercharger which can power up the bus in just 1.5 hours. And we believe that it will be a major input into our thoughts as we start the journey of feeding the demand side with mobility devices that address really the need. We know that the transportation mix cannot be addressed by just one mode. Not only buses, the borders play a role depending on where you are within the value chain. But we believe that in the urban centers of Uganda and also the rest of the region, there is need for us to start thinking about how we put electric buses with high volume on the road to serve the needs of the people while also increasing productivity, because if you've been to Nairobi and you've been to Kampala, one thing we share in common is congestion. In Kampala, it costs us $800 million a year in lost productivity on the backdrop of another 180 billion Uganda shillings annually in excess fuel that we burn, which we couldn't have burned. We think that it's timely, and that if we do it, if we started this journey now, we have the hope that as the other parts of the world talk about 2025, 2030, 2040, we'll have made a major step in not only addressing issues of air quality, providing a sustainable mobility solution, but also championing a platform for industrialization that will ensure that our economies are there a day after today. I thank you very much.